Hello, my name is Hal Horne. I'm the president of the Culver City Historical Society, a nonprofit organization dedicated to the preserving of the rich and colorful history of Culver City. In the next half hour, I'm going to share some secrets with you about our little town known as the heart of Screenland. Although it's not as well known as some of its more affluent neighbors on the west side, Culver City was recently named by Los Angeles Magazine as the second best place to live in Southern California. The city was named after its founder, innovative real estate developer Harry H. Culver. He was active in the town's politics early on, and later became a nationally known figure in real estate. Culver founded the nearby Pacific Military Academy and donated 100 acres to begin construction of Loyola University, from which he received an honorary Doctor of Laws degree in 1930. By 1924, Culver had the local theater moved to make way for his Hotel Hunt, which later became the Culver Hotel. The 150-room hotel was situated at the foot of Main Street, the hub of the city. Well, I'm not Harry Culver, but I am sitting at his old office up here on the second floor of the Culver Hotel. Contains a spectacular view looking westward down along Culver Boulevard, which at one time was called Putnam Avenue and was the route of the Blue Line Pacific Electric Railway cars. At one time, this office here was also used by John Wayne during the time that he owned the hotel and before he sold his interest to the YMCA. Of course, now it's being used by developer Lou Catlett, and he has renovated the office to its original splendor. Just east of the hotel is the Culver Studios, a part of the Sony Pictures Entertainment family since 1991. It was originally constructed by film pioneer Thomas Ince in 1919, and the Mansion Administration Building later became famous as David O. Selznick's trademark logo. For years, people mistakenly thought that the mansion was Terra in Gone with the Wind. 7 structures on the lot, including the mansion and the Selznick wing, have been recognized as historic structures by the city. In the 1930s, the back lot, known as 40 acres, was added to the studio. The sets that were built for King Kong were later burned on the lot to simulate the burning of Atlanta in Gone with the Wind. As the eastern anchor of the downtown area, the presence of the Culver Studios reinforces Culver City's motto, the heart of Screenland. It isn't only the movie studios where you can find traces of Culver City's motion picture history. You can go right into people's backyards and see it there too. Longtime Culver City resident Tom Ray, who for almost 50 years has been an animator and worked at both Warner Brothers and MGM cartoon factories, built this western street in his own backyard.
Because my daughter Alois requested a playhouse, and I didn't know how in the world to build a playhouse that would be worth anything to her. But I got the idea from the back lot at Warner Brothers, where they were shooting Western movies all the time, and I'd see them demolish the sets. So I got the idea, well, I'll just gather up some scraps from one of those demolished sets and build her a playhouse. But it might as well be false front, and then she can just play anything she wants to. My dad's name, Al Ray.
Okay.
And I just put that up there and cut out a silhouette because he had one, a sign like that, in Williams, Arizona, up on a false-fronted building where he had a boot and shoe shop and second-hand store.
Tom Ray still works as an animator, and he has no plans to retire. From 1931 to 1969, when it closed its doors, Helms Bakery was a major employer in Culver City, and the memory of Helms bread lingers on.
Helms Bakery is #1. I love those raspberry tarts, right? And the chocolate donuts. And the bread was fantastic. When you drive by Venice Boulevard, you know you're in heaven because you can smell the bread baked.
In July of 1995, the Helms family and their co-workers gathered at Veterans Memorial Park for a picnic and to talk about old times. You know, the romantic story goes that your grandfather started the bakery to bake bread for the Olympic Village that was built here in 1931. Is that true?
No, well, that wasn't the reason was to feed the family. I mean, my grandfather had come from back east. He was not in good health, and he wanted to start a door-to-door bakery here. He started in 1930, and we stayed in business until 1970, but the Olympic bread situation just came about as a stroke of good fortune in my grandfather's intelligence. He capitalized on that because in 1932 the games were held here in Los Angeles, and he thought it would be a good idea to bake bread for the United States team, and that was the birth of Olympic bread.
It was family. We never looked at ourselves as individuals. We looked at ourselves as family. We were co-workers. We were not employees. You never called a guy an employee. He was a co-worker. Mr. Helms called you a co-worker.
He called you by your first name.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone in the plant, he called by their first name. It was incredible that he was a genius.
Following the 1932 Olympic Games in Los Angeles, Paul Helms and his assistant, the late Bill Schroeder, created the Helms Athletic Foundation, the largest and most extensive sports museum of its kind. Margaret Farnham, currently CEO of the Los Angeles Coliseum Commission, had this to say about her former employer.
And he had this tremendous energy, this tremendous thought to honor athletes and build his sports library. And he was one of the most likable people you could find. There was nothing he would not do for you. He often took money out of his own pocket to entertain celebrities from out of the country, athletes that were down on their luck. He helped pay for the Jim Thorpe funeral when he passed away and there was no money there.
Walter Marks Jr. and his son, who now own the property which sits partly in Culver City and partly in Los Angeles, arranged for the more than 150 former employees to tour the facility as it is today. The Helms building is recognized as a landmark historic structure by the city. It currently houses the Jazz Bakery, a fencing academy, and the Antique Guild.
It must be something in this building that is a real sense of family.
The Marks family is extremely proud of the eclectic blend of artistic and retail tenants.
And my goal was to work more with actors, so he said, hey, let's get a theater going here. So I was brought out here 6 years ago from New York City to kind of like push it and nudge it and make things happen.
You know, this picnic shows how much of a community of friends there are and employees and so forth. And we kind of think that the people that we have as tenants there are friends, and we have a nice community. It's a very nice community that we're trying to build too.
Fiesta La Ballona, sponsored by the city's Recreation Department, began in 1951 as a week-long celebration of Culver City's Spanish heritage. Fiesta La Ballona had a 13-year continuous run. It was reinstituted in later years as a Festival of the People and now exists as a weekend event centered at Veterans Park. Here are Mexican descendant Clarita Young, who in 1995 was honored with the Merit Award from the Conference of California Historical Societies, and Pat Culver Battle, Harry Culver's daughter. They are usually on hand to judge the Kiddies Parade at Vets Park. During the fiesta, the Culver City Historical Society provides docents and the city provides a bus to bring citizens a free historic highlights tour of Culver City. In 1963, Exchange Club member Earl Eskridge suggested that the Culver City Exchange Club help organize and host an annual community fireworks display on the 4th of July. It became a cooperative effort between the city, Exchange Club, and the Culver City Unified School District. Besides raising community awareness of patriotism, the event helps to raise funds for many charitable endeavors, including the Center for the Prevention of Childhood Abuse. The event has grown over the years, especially since fireworks were outlawed in the city. Each year, thousands of people fill the Culver City High School Helms Field to enjoy this uniquely American holiday tradition. The city's police and fire departments have been extremely helpful in making Culver City's 4th of July celebration a real family and community affair. Two and a half years ago, the Culver City Historical Society began an ambitious documentary to record the 80-year history of the entertainment industry in the city that prides itself as being the heart of Screenland. To date, we have conducted more than 30 extensive interviews with actors, film historians, studio employees, producers, and residents.
like silent films better than talking films, but I learned to like them later on. But I loved, for one thing, in silent pictures, you could have your music played.
You know, and it was like being in heaven when you take a stage-struck kid and put her in at MGM. Well, what else could she ask for?
Now, the girls, although the rumor was that we were semi-nude, the actuality was that we wore leotards, heavy body makeup, and wigs down to our knees.
Real life in Culver City will be a vital document for film historians and residents alike, and one you'll not want to miss. You'll see and hear how motion pictures and television came to Culver City and how they influenced the people who lived here and continue to do so.
The citizens of Culver City really ran the city. And in my opinion at least, the City Council and the Planning Commission really did pay attention to the citizenry and didn't just do for us or for any other business what the business wanted to have done.
Because Bartlett is very flamboyant. If you can visualize the old-time director with a cape and the boots and the riding crop, that's Cy Bartlett. To know him was to love him if you ever got to know him, and I got to know him just about the time I was leaving him, and he was furious that I was leaving him. How can you do this to me? Blah, 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 blah. And I said, well, I'm going back to work for Rod Serling.
So I said to Mr. Mayor, why do you want me to have a mustache? And he said to me, looking me straight in the eye, and he said, well, that mouth and those teeth, he said, you'd be much better off with a mustache.
But the things for MGM that I did out here in Culver City were going back to the Barretts of Wimpole Street and Price Fight on the Lady with Max Baer and a lot of athletes and Myrna Loy in 1933, and Queen Christina with Garbo in 1933, and Jack Gilbert when she got him working again in a picture.
When I played Proctor's 125th Street, George M. Cohan came to see the show. He says, I'm hearing a lot about you, kid. I wanted to see you work. So after the show was over, I walked out to the stage. He's standing at the stage doors in the summertime. And I said, what do you think? He says, lose the guy in the act. I says, it's his act. He says, then get out of it. I said, well, I got to eat. He says, you want to eat now and starve later?
On June 17, 1995, 2,000 residents joined the City Council for the dedication ceremonies of the new City Hall. Mayor Steve Gorley had this to say about the future of Culver City, the heart of Screenland.
We are fortunate in Culver City to have this new City Hall and to have an active group of volunteers in nearly every aspect of life here in Culver City. The Culver City Historical Society has also been an important factor in preserving Culver City as the heart of Screenland.
Since the Historical Society's formation in 1981, we have worked very hard to establish a community museum where we can display and share the memorabilia and stories that make up the unique history of our town. From the first settlers of the La Ballona Valley, the Gabrielino Indians, to the Mexican-Spanish land grant families of Machado, Calamantes, Lugo, and Sepulveda, to the days of Harry Culver, Tom Ince, and Louis B. Mayer, and to today's Culver City of Sony Pictures and architect Eric Owen Moss, we have a lot to share. Over the years, costumes have been donated from MGM, thousands of photographs have been given to us. City records, 16mm film and videos have come into our possession. Residents and businesses have donated valuable records and recollections. In the years to come, we expect to receive even more as closets are cleaned, garages emptied, and offices renovated. In order to preserve our heritage and our memories, we need a Culver City museum. With the help of concerned citizens, film and history buffs, we can make the Culver City Historical Museum a reality.
I remember seeing them as they paddle, the Indians paddle along the creek, and Harry Carey was riding in the canoe. So it was quite interesting to watch this happening, and knowing that, then later seeing the movie and see how it transformed La Ballona Creek into a rushing river.
Yes, growing up in Culver City was a small town USA, 5,000 people. And we had plenty of empty lots and lots of fun. We rode horses and went up in the hills and climbed. And what I loved most about Culver City is the fact that I didn't have to travel any place. The world came to me.
Culver City? I think it's still a nice town that hasn't gotten so overpowering with tall buildings that it hasn't lost its charm.
I felt so lucky to be in a cartoon studio, and I was getting paid $12.75 a week for 42.5 hours. And I thought, isn't this wonderful? I'm working in a cartoon studio and I'm getting paid too.
Anything in the Western line, guns, knives, bullwhips, roping, and if they all come to me to the studios, I always send them. And I've had, at the ranch in Culver City, I've had Zsa Gabor up there, Richard Egan, George Hamilton. They all would come up to the ranch there, because it's right there in Culver City, right close to the studios. And Robert Taylor, I've doubled Bob on his Billy the Kid, the first one, and was gun instructor for him. Glenn Ford, I was gun instructor for Glenn Ford on Fastest Gun Alive. In fact, you'll see me in the picture on that too. I did a part. In those days, you used to do parts as well as doing the instructing and everything. I go on before the picture started and work with them, and then work in the picture.
How would I like to be remembered? As somebody that's contributed.
In the summertime, the three of my playmates now were on our bicycles on our way out to the San Fernando Valley, because this is now harvesting time, and the fruit and all. We go out there and pick apricots and peaches and oranges and lemons and melons and things like that, and make a little money. And so we were riding out, and one of our groups said, "Hey, they got a moving picture studio over here. It's something new, and let's go by and look at it." And we came up there. Why, some gentleman said, "Hey, you four guys, come with me." And he takes us inside and puts us in bib overhauls and things like that, and we takes us into this structure like a barn, and it had a little shed-like thing in the one corner. And we climbed up some stairs, and up on the top, and we were with this band for this circus, and the picture was Rebecca of Sunnybrook Farm, starring Mary Pickford.
Joseph Cotton and Lionel Barrymore were doing a scene, and Lionel Barrymore couldn't remember the lines too well, so they had to redo the scene 3 or 4 times. And Joseph Cotton sort of lost his patience, and Lionel Barrymore looked at him and he said, "Joe," he said, "you think you're an actor." And he says, "You couldn't be a pimple on an actor's."
And that happened in Culver City.